thank you everyone for joining me for World Reflexology Week to have just a let's talk reflexology and RLD and anything else that you want to bring to the table that's reflexology related. So thank you for joining me. So I'd like to hand it over to you. Some of you I know have trained in RLD with me, some of you maybe not. If there's anything you want to share or talk or ask, I've got files open, things I can share. Maybe you just want to share some of the success stories that you've had, you know, maybe not got questions and you just want to share and talk shop, because there is a joy in that, as we know, being reflexologists. So who'd like to start? Who's come here with any questions that they'd like to ask? Don't be shy. Don't be shy.
So I do have a question.
Okay.
So when I was doing my case studies, I did a couple of them. And when I do the measurements before and then the measurements after, do the measurements go up or down? Because sometimes I got up, sometimes I got down. So I'm not sure if I'm doing it right.
No, you are doing it right. The good thing about that is it shows that it's moving. So for example, just using the hand and arm as an example, we only measure the cylinder of the arm. And if somebody has a lot of swelling in their hand, we're not measuring that. Then afterwards, it follows that some of the swelling, and as the fluid is moving in the body, some of the higher sections can increase. And that's the movement of it, which is great, because to me, that shows it's working. Just troubleshooting now with measuring for anybody who'd like more information about that. So when we measure, what we need to do is go to the nearest millimeter as we're measuring around the circumference. Sometimes when people send me case studies, or you know, when we're having a go in class, if we're face to face, they've got the tape measure and they've lined it up and it's rounded to a nice round number of centimeters. And what happens is that it doesn't change a whole centimeter. Sometimes it might, but it generally doesn't. You're more likely to just get a few millimeters off each one. So the more accurate you can be with the tension and reading the tape measure to the nearest millimeter will give you the best results possible. But the fluctuations are great because it shows that you are moving the fluid around in the body. Sometimes when people are doing their case studies, they might have a client that doesn't have any swelling, but they still decide to have a go at measuring. And so if you're measuring limbs that don't have any lymphedema swelling, there won't be much of a difference afterwards, but there will be some difference. It'll be negligible amount. This could be due to the lymph moving or just slight inaccuracies with measuring millimeters, measuring to the nearest millimeter. So if you're not sure when you're looking at your results, what you can do is just see how the client feels. And I never really want people to get caught up in the measuring and let that put you off using the technique, because it can feel overwhelming. I mean, there are advantages to it, as you know, you've heard me talking about the advantages in the training, because it's great for people. For example, if you've got somebody who's got swelling in their arm, they've had it there for 10 years, they've been told, oh, there's nothing that can be done about this. And then we come along with RLD and maybe their arm feels a bit lighter, or maybe their clothes are a little bit looser. But in here, because they've already been told nothing can be done about that, it's very hard for them to believe that there's changes to them. Not that they're doubting you, but how can that really be happening when I've been told I have to learn to live with this? To then see the measurements before and after. So a nice way of engaging your clients with this process is to use your clipboard with your measurement sheet on, the one I send out with the course stuff, the one you fill in, and give it to the client on the clipboard with the pen, show them how to fill it in, because that way when you're it makes it easier for you because it's an extra pair of hands. You don't have to stop, put the tape measure down, pick up the pen, you know, do all that. It involves them in the process, which people like. They like to see it for themselves. And it really does reinforce that, God, this really is working. And not just imagining that it feels better, those things. So does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Mandy. Does anybody else have any questions? Anybody else like to share any experiences? Go on. Laura.
I'm rubbish at the measuring. I get clients come and then I get really cross at myself that I haven't done before and after photographs or done measurements, because 3 or 4 treatments on, we're like, wow, look at the difference. So my main thing for today was just to give me a bit of a, right, you need to get back into the habit of befores and afters, not really just for the client, but also for myself to sell it.
Yes.
Because some people, that's what they need to see before they'll hook in. Others will just come and try it and then get hooked.
Yeah.
But I'm shocked in some ways at how much I use your technique, Sally. I started thinking, oh, I came on the course in 2019. Oh, I'm not really going to use it. I'll do it as a bit of a bolt on, but nearly every treatment, I use it for something. And I've got a few clients at the moment who are doing quite big weight loss programs.
Okay.
But you can't shift things from the legs. It doesn't look like lymphedema, but they've definitely got more fluid on the legs. And the girls are just saying they feel so much lighter and more energized. The legs just feel different.
Yes.
So I'm doing it a lot for that, as well as for my fibro clients.
Yes, wonderful. So for your fibro clients, and that's another condition that there's very little help and understanding for the clients themselves. But there's so much inflammation going on in the body there that RLD is just great for that. So with those clients, you won't be measuring the limbs, obviously, but are you using maybe a visual analog scale or one of those other outcome measures?
I occasionally, when I'm on it, which isn't always, I do use the MyCore sometimes and they pick 1 or 2 things to measure against.
Yeah, it's a great thing to do, because you know, when we feel better, we forget how bad we used to feel. And if we haven't anchored that down at the beginning, when you start seeing someone, you know, those sort of baseline, how bad are you sort of thing, how bad are you feeling, then at the end, when they're feeling better, they're not sure, was it the reflexology? Was I feeling better anyway? You know, you've got all that doubt, and that is something that as reflexologists we're all constantly up against. You know, when clients aren't sure, well, I don't know when I took my last painkillers, you know, that sort of thing. It's getting in the habit of remembering to see how bad somebody or how much somebody's struggling with a condition or a symptom when they first come to you. An example I often use for that is, you know, if somebody comes in, they say, oh, my neck's really bad, I couldn't drive. And before you start, you say to them, just show me how bad it is. And they go, oh no, it's awful, I can't move it around. That's all very well. What you need to do at the end of the session is remember to say to, oh, by the way, how's your neck now? And they go, oh my God, that's amazing. So they're sure it was the reflexology and you're sure it's the reflexology. They don't wake up the next morning and think, oh, actually, I feel a bit better. Oh yeah, perhaps it was going to go anyway. It's like, no, it was the reflexology. So I think it's really good habit to get into. But with the legs, I mean, I do tell people how to do that, and the measurement sheets and all of that, the spreadsheet for calculating it all will do legs as well. But it's quite hard to measure legs unless you practice it a lot. what I tend to do with clients with lymphedema in their lower limbs, in their legs, is just to ask them how they feel before. And the word that's already been used here, not by me, is lighter. People always say they feel lighter. And that just tells me that the stuff is moving. And then you've got that increased urination, changes to the urine, and as they lose more, mobility improves. So the improved mobility, all of that helps, you know, one helps to sustain the results of the others. Yeah, and of course it's a deeply relaxing treatment. So there are benefits of that too for somebody who's on a weight loss program. You know, you could support people emotionally with that as well. So great. It's really good to know that you're using it such a lot, putting it to good use. Great. Thank you. Kathy.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I've got a bit of a weird question stroke observation.
Okay.
I am studying MLD at the moment, and I've read your book, Sally, but I haven't actually done your course yet.
Okay.
But today, for instance, I was working on somebody with autism spectrum disorder, and she has lipedema.
Okay.
And I did all the MLD techniques for that, and then I don't know whether it's overkill, but I like to put some of the RLD practices in when I get down to the feet. Now, again, I'd love to know what you think. You know, should I just sort of stay in in one lane? But anyway, this particular client felt nauseous when I got to the feet, and she said it was sensory overload because I had lovely music playing, it was warm in the room, and the soft touch, and she just said it was just, it was too nice, almost, you know. So again,
What do I think?
Is it a question or an observation?
Yeah, no, it's great. It's discussion. That's what this is all about, discussion. Okay, so are you familiar with Karen Windsor and her work? On Instagram, she's at Kaz Talks. She's done RLD training with me. She's somebody who does a lot of work around lipodema and primary lymphedema. She also has fibromyalgia. So she's absolutely changed. She's a reflexologist, and I'm not saying anything here that isn't on her, you know, social media out there in public. She is doing some incredible work with RLD. That's what was a catalyst in the changes she's made, but she supports a lot of people with lipodema too. She does all sorts on Instagram, but if you look back at some of her older posts, you'll see. But I mean, I'm not MLD trained, which is how I ended up developing RLD, because there wasn't an alternative. And you know what it's like, you've got a client in front of you and all you want to do is help them to the best of your ability, saying, okay, I'm a reflexologist, I can do this. So she was maybe having a double dose. If I'm guessing, were you doing sort of subclavian vein, cisterna-chyli reflex, those sort of moves?
Yeah.
So when somebody has lipodema, or in my experience now with RLD, lipodema or primary lymphedema or secondary lymphedema in the lower limbs, you know, what we're doing is we're draining it upwards, aren't we? You know, the whole lymph thing just goes in one direction, from where it enters to where it returns to the drainage point up here. And I think the nausea is when it's moving from the lower limbs quicker than it can travel up the body. And I think that's what causes the nausea, because you don't often get people feeling nauseous when it's swelling in the upper limbs, so the arms and things. So what I would do in that case, and I had a chat with Karen about this, we did a podcast thing, one of those lockdown things that you did, and she was talking about her lipodema stuff, is to then focus on those drainage points so that it's got somewhere to go, rather than trying to move, backing up, and that sort of queasiness that you can get when it's traveling up, because it has to go up the body, doesn't it? And interestingly, I've been working on somebody lately who's had a really awful knee injury. So much so she couldn't straighten her knee, and it's very swollen. I did put some pictures on Instagram, actually. And she wouldn't know what I'm doing with RLD, but she was feeling trickling going up her leg. We got a reduction in swelling. I took photographs, didn't measure. We got a reduction in swelling. She was feeling trickling going up her legs. And because there was a lot of swelling there, she actually felt this nausea, which I thought was quite interesting, considering that, again, we're trying to drain swelling from a lower limb. So does that help?
Very much so, yeah. No, that makes a heck of a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And the annoying thing is I sat her up a little bit, which just sends everything back down again, but she needed to be upright.
Well, I mean, if she's had a full MLD session, then that is quite a full-on treatment, isn't it? But
it is indeed.
I mean, the only time I'm saying to people only do RLD as RLD is when they're doing a case study, because it does work. It works really well as a standalone treatment. But ultimately, as therapists, we do these extra courses to, give us a bigger toolbox so we can help more people. We've got more techniques for different presenting conditions and clients and all of those things. So no, I'm not precious about stuff like that. I think use what you've got, because that's what you want to do, is you want to help the person who's come to see you, and you just do your best to do that, which is great. So I'm assuming, Kathy, you're a reflexologist as well, are you?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Great.
Yeah. It is quite tempting to throw the whole toolbox at them sometimes, though, and just have to pull back sometimes.
I get it.
And I, by the way, compliment you on your book. It is unputdownable. It's such a good read. It's almost like a page turner,
Oh, thank you.
It makes it very accessible. And, if you compare that to the MLD training, which is so dry and, so compliments on that to make it more open to people. It's great. Thank
you very much. It took me 7 years to write that book, on and off, stop, start, imposter syndrome, stop, start, who are you to write a book? That little... And I was only ever going to write one book, but I really felt this work needed to be written. It needed to be put in print, and so it's there. And if I was only going to ever write one book, it was going to be the best it could possibly be. So thank you for that. I appreciate your feedback. Thank you. Are you doing VODA training, MLD? Kathy? Yeah. That's the most extensive, isn't it? Yeah, great. Okay, does anybody else have anything you'd like to say? Go on. Any questions at all? Anything you want to share?
Hi there, everybody.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah Hanratty. Very newly graduated level 5 diploma from Jubilee College. So I'm really excited, and thank you for hosting this, Sally. It's you're number one on my list of next CPD courses to do, and I just really appreciate sort of advice about whether you sort of do something in between now before I come onto your course, or just any other experiences from you or the group, that just to plan my sort of CPD journey onwards would be really helpful. Thank you. And I'm really passionate about it. It's lovely to hear you talk too, because just the suddenly feeling that movement happening. We've done some of the palliative work, obviously, on level 5, but you can really feel the power of it moving, and that it's almost the relief from clients when something changes in them. It's amazing. So yeah, really excited.
Yeah, I mean, the excitement you're feeling now, I personally, I first started this, I first went to college in 2004, and I'm just as excited now as I was then. So it kind of doesn't go away. That's one of the just an amazing thing about reflexology, because you just, the only thing you end up, or I've always felt, oh, only I'd started learning it earlier in my life. I know it's a cliche, but I do believe that whole, you know, the more I learn, the less I know. So one thing I would say is consolidate the learning that you've got. You know, I mean, when I first qualified, excuse me, I'd done a full-time course for a year that was massage and aromatherapy as well. So I already had 3 things to offer. And I was thinking, oh, well, the more things I have to offer, the bigger menu I have, if you like, the more clients I'll get. That wasn't the case. But I went on and did Indian head and Reiki and crystals and Hopi ear candles and EFT and, you know, all those sorts of things that you can bolt on. Some you can only bolt on to a massage qualification as well. But actually, I still come back to reflexology, which was my passion. Now, it might feel different for you because you've qualified in reflexology. And I do get some people who've only just qualified, or some people who are coming towards the end of their course come, and they, I mean, some people have trained in reflexology because they want to learn RLD. I've had a few MLD therapists like that. So it's difficult to say. It depends who you're working with, what your cohort is, whether you're hoping to work in cancer care, whether you're working with people with a lot of autoimmune or stress or pregnancy or any of those sort of things. It depends really if you have an idea of where you want to go with this. Do you have an idea, or do you just want to work on lots of feet?
Well, of course, yeah, definitely. As we all, amazing, yeah. I mean, it's just incredible, isn't it? But I've been really interested in. I've got a couple of fibromyalgia clients, and really noticing how that the sort of inflammation and fluid buildup can happen there. And I'm really interested in sort of musculoskeletal and also palliative and cancer care. So it really felt like right in the spot for those particular, to sort of focus in that area for me particularly.
Yes,
so that's really helpful. I think suddenly getting all, I'm going to do everything.
Yeah. I mean, this is going to sound like a sales pitch now, which I don't mean at all, but RLD started by in cancer care. There was no MLD available for people, but I understood it. So okay, I'm going to apply the principle to that, to the feet, see what happens. So it has for a long time just been about that whole lymphedema, in particular breast cancer related lymphedema. But the more I've done it and the more it's grown organically, and what we're finding is that people with fibromyalgia, so there's a lot of inflammation going in the body, because it isn't just about swelling. So where there's inflammation, then RLD will help with that. So pain, musculoskeletal stuff, people who are run down. And I've had some fantastic case studies from people who have long COVID, amazing case studies, because many of the symptoms or the way that long COVID's been described really is similar to ME and chronic fatigue, you know, that fatigue and lack of energy and all of those sort of things. And RLD was really helping people with those conditions. So therefore, by using it with these kind of long COVID type conditions, people are also seeing amazing results, particularly earlier on, you know, when there was more of it around. And there's nothing really for people with this, and they're learning more and more about it all the time now. But certainly that cohort of people who are very run down, very fatigued, in pain, you know, immune, very sluggish, all of that, RLD is just fantastic for those clients, and it can be used just as a short standalone treatment, or you can fully integrate it into what you're doing. And, you know, as Laura was saying, it becomes a way of practicing. It sort of changes how you think about working that system. If you're doing a general reflexology, you would still do all the systems. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you. Really
You're
appreciate
welcome. You're welcome. Laura, you just need to unmute.
Sorry. Sarah, I don't know if it's helpful, but I actually qualified with Jubilee College 2019 in the September, and then did Sally's course in the December. So like you, I was quite excited about it, and actually it was definitely for me the right one to do. So I don't know whether that helps or not, but yes. Can I ask if you've had any experience with MND?
I haven't. Oh, sorry, you asking? Not me.
No, anyone actually. Is anyone here who's had any experience with MND, motor neurons disease? I mean, that's a pretty awful condition, isn't it?
I'm working with somebody at the moment who's I'm actually going visiting in a home, and they found me, and I've just connected with this lady, and I just wondered if anybody knows anybody who's had experience of it, because obviously it's quite a challenging treatment to give when the speech is starting to go anyway. So if anybody knows of anybody or anything, I'd love to speak to them.
Do you know what would be very interesting to document what you're doing? Are you just doing a general?
I'm rubbish at the documenting bit. At the moment,
if you start documenting something, even if it's just one case, and then you maybe have another case, and you start to see similarities. So, for example, when I did that sequence, this person responded in that way, and then you maybe do that next time, or maybe they present with something else the next time, and you change it again, and you can start to notice a pattern. That's how we learn. That's how we learn from the clients that we have. But if I was going to see somebody with MND, I'd see what they would most like help with on that day, there and then.
I mean, at the moment, I'm actually using RLD.
Okay.
Just one round, because obviously it's a lot shorter, the treatment that she can have. And she has got swelling on her ankle and her knee.
Okay.
So that's what I've been doing, but I just wondered if anybody else has got any experience of it.
So is the swelling because I'm guessing she's no longer mobile, is she?
She is still mobile, and she's doing amazingly well. It's more a throat at the moment and a voice. So she could have dialogue when I first started, but now a speech, she has to talk through the computer. But what I've noticed is when I'm doing the RLD, it produces more of the obviously mucus in the upper lymph. And I said to her, "Is that a bad thing for you?" She said, no, it helps clear it.
Oh, well, on step 3 in RLD, you know, when you're working at the neck, and working across the back, I think that's the bit where your clients then say to you, or you look up and you see them and they're like gulping. So it's stimulating that sort of saliva, as well as being deeply relaxing. That's the bit I think that gets the old vagus nerve going, that part. So you've got, you know, vagus nerve, 80% of that whole parasympathetic, rest and digest, motor nerve fiber, autonomic nerve fiber, and sensory nerve fiber. And that's where you see, you know, that's what I mean, you know, you do something often enough, you learn to just glance up, notice your client and notice their gulping. But I'm so pleased it's helping her.
Because it was one of those where I thought, oh, am I stimulating it and she can't get rid of it?
Yeah.
But she said no, but she's obviously just very conscious that she's got to get rid of it.
Yes. Yeah, I'm so glad it's helping her. And do you notice a difference in her voice when you're at that stage?
Yeah, and I'm also, I'm awful. She's getting a bit lazy, and I've told her, I try and be as normal as possible with her, because it's very easy for me to start assuming what she's saying. And I just said, no, you need to say it yourself. And a speech therapist just said she's got to obviously communicate. But yeah, so yeah, you can hear, it's a little bit clearer what she's trying to say.
great. Oh, that's amazing. See, that's the sort of thing I mean about documenting.
Yes.
So just that's really useful. That, and maybe if you had a few cases like that, then you approach an MND support group, and offer to maybe talk to them or do some tasters. So I think with these life-limiting conditions like that, anything that can be done to make people's lives more comfortable, I think, remember complementary therapies were all people used to have, weren't they? They didn't have all this sort of drugs and stuff. So I think it's all good. The whole world needs more reflexology now, more than ever, I think, after the pandemic. So thank you, Sarah, and I wish you all the best. And I've loved my reflexology journey, honestly, absolutely loved it. Does anybody else have anything you'd like to say? Kathy, have you unmuted there?
Yeah, I don't want to dominate the conversation, but I just wanted to very quickly say, you're talking about the whole world needs and whatever. My husband was in hospital the last few weeks, and he had a stem cell transplant. He's got multiple myeloma, cancer, bone marrow, and he's been the recipient of a lot of my courses over the years, and normally just falls asleep and just doesn't take any notice of what I'm doing. But last week he was he was in an enormous amount of pain. He'd got a hospital-acquired infection as well as the stem cell transplant, and he has peripheral neuropathy as well. And so I was just looking at him going, I must be able to do something instead of just, wiping surfaces and things like that, And I started with the reflexology. I thought I'd just do a very small thing. And I was a little bit sort of cautious of his feet because they really, with peripheral neuropathy, you really get the horrific burning sensation, and it's just incredibly painful. And so I did a mixture of reflexology and what I've learned from your book as well. And he just suddenly just sighed, and I looked up at him and he was like, "Is this what you do?" He's just been doing this for years and he's never noticed. And he said, "This is amazing." And it's incredible because you get a lot of people coming into your clinics and, paying and saying, "Oh yeah, that's great, thank you very much," and all this. But somebody who's never really appreciated, they're not paying for it, and they're like, "Hang on a minute, this is great." It was really a lovely moment, and he felt incredible afterwards. Had a full night's sleep, which he hadn't had for a month. So, it was, again, just sharing that, but it's nice,
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, often our loved ones, and this happens sometimes when I'm doing online training, and people go after the first day, go and work on someone, usually a loved one, before we regroup for the next day. And so often people say, "Oh, my husband let me work on him," or my son or daughter let me work on them. It's like they're doing us a favor, and yet I think they love it really, but they just don't. They are doing it as a favor very often to oh gosh, I'm delighted that you're able to help. So was the peripheral neuropathy due to chemotherapy? Did that cause it? Yeah. Oh, that's awful. It's a horrid condition, isn't it?
It stays with you as well. Like, I don't think the nerves ever fully kind of recover, once you've had that level of chemo as well. But now he's noticed that it makes a difference. It's like, do you fancy doing that again? Do you fancy?
Yeah, great. Yeah. So do you know Peter McCareth from the Christie Hospital in Manchester? Peter is, I think, a legend. He's just he's done so much for reflexology and complementary therapies in cancer care. He's been doing some work around peripheral neuropathy and reflexology, and also Carol Samuel does work with pain in cancer survivors. She's got a protocol that she uses for that. The other technique that, in my experience, works really well with that is just some of the very light linking. you know, the precision linking work. That's great because it's quite hard sometimes, people touching their feet, not everybody, it doesn't feel nice, does it? Always, you know, when there's sort of sensory disruption like that. Yeah, great. I'm so pleased you're able to help him with that. And does he let you do hand reflexology on him, or has he got peripheral neuropathy in his hands as well?
No, I've never really got on with hands, to be honest. I do face
Okay.
instead, but so I sometimes do that with him. But he's quite happy for me to work on his feet. But I know other people wouldn't be. You know, so.
Yeah, and that's again one of those things, isn't it? Take everybody as you find them, really. Do what you can for that individual on the day. So thank you for sharing. Hi Bev, you've unmuted there. Do you have anything you'd like to say or ask? Or
no, I've only just joined you, sorry. So
that's okay.
yeah, I just thought I'd have a little catch up.
Nice. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you'd like to share from your experiences, or any questions, or anything else reflexology related that you'd like to talk about?
I get a few referrals for people that have had liposuction and things like that, you know, or they're a bit weary of RLD because they're not quite sure because it's not like a massage, is there? And I'm just wondering how I can try and sell that a bit better.
It's very hard to promise people anything. We're not allowed to do that, obviously. But my way would be to say, well, try it. Just try it, see how you feel. Yeah, because there is a shortage of MLD practitioners. So people are having different procedures done and then find that they can't get the MLD that they need after that. I mean, I think RLD in that situation, obviously I'm biased, but people don't have to get undressed. There's no risk of infection there because you're not touching you're not working anywhere near the area where they've had the work done. Shoes and socks off. So does that help?
Yeah, you know, I do try and explain what it is, and it's just a different technique to try and get the same effect, really. But you know, I think if they've been shown a way in hospital, they're expecting that type of, you know, like massage type thing, opposed to the reflexology.
So I went through a phase of having inquiries. I had a gentleman who'd had, for cosmetic reasons, he's had liposuction on his back and, you know, front and back of his abdomen to just, you know, for cosmetic reasons. I've had people who've had a tummy tuck and a boob lift. And seen some great results, and I'm quite honest with them about it. I don't promise them anything. I explain that this is a reflexology technique that's based on the principles of MLD, and you know, results are very promising, and why don't you try it? That's how I do it. But I've got something I'm quite happy to share if that's okay with everyone. I don't know if any of you've maybe seen this already. So back at Christmas time last year, my son had quadruple jaw surgery. It was broken in 4 places, and he had 4 wisdom teeth removed because he had a crossbite that way and an underbite. So only 2 of his teeth met, 1 top and 1 bottom, and he was beginning to get musculoskeletal problems. So this is a big operation. It was the best part of 4 hours operation, and his face was very swollen afterwards. And then it can take up to 12 months for all the nerve stuff to come back, and it's no solids at all. He was kind of eating through a straw for a few days, but they had originally recommended that he have some MLD to help with the swelling. Well, there's no one around here that's doing this, and he knows about my work because he's been very supportive with the stuff that I'm doing. And so we decided we were going to do RLD every day. So from 24 hours after surgery, when he came out of hospital, I did his feet every day, sticking to the RLD. I didn't do arms and legs. I left that part off, and so did the main sequence, and then just concentrated on the upper and the head and neck, trying to drain. And I'm going to show you a picture, if you'd like to see it, of what happened. So literally over the 15 days it was, and on a couple of days I did it twice because he was in so much pain, but he could feel draining. There was some swelling under here too, under the chin, and from, you know, when your viewpoint of the feet, if they're in a lymphoma, you're kind of looking up at that bit, and you know, the creases in your neck as well, I could actually see it going up. I mean, I made him do like a selfie and before and after, so he could see as well, and he was documenting what he'd gone through. Anyway, let me get the pictures. Just a sec, I'm going to get the file. Okay. I did have some slides ready. Okay, right. I'll just share now. So the specialist and the orthodontist had told him that the swelling would take 6 to 8 weeks before it started to go, you know, and that would be a good result if it went that quickly. And for people who have this particular type of jaw, or any of these kind of jaw realignment surgeries for medical reasons, not cosmetic reasons, there are these big forums, Facebook forums and things, and people share how they had a pill crusher and things so they could take their painkillers, and some people document their journey with videos and video diaries and things that have worked, things that haven't. So he was prepared for all this, and he was also prepared for the swelling to last that long. So just going to share this with you a sec. So this is just one picture here. This was before and after one treatment. This was about, oh, there we are, day 5. So you can see under here there was swelling, and then under here it's gone up a little bit. This is just during the treatment. And then this one, day 15 compared to day 5. So day 5 and day 15. Day 15, he went for his checkup, post-op checkup with the specialist, the guy who'd done the surgery, and he said he'd never seen anything like it before. He'd never seen swelling disappear within 2 weeks. So that's what I mean about documenting these things. Don't be afraid to try. The lymph is everywhere in our bodies. It's also part of our immune system as well. So if you're working that, you're kind of affecting everything. But what was also interesting was how sore his reflexes were so soon after the surgery. And initially, he couldn't even bear to have the lymphoma reclined. You know, I had to prop, he was in it, I had to prop his feet up. It was very, very, it was awful. As a mother to watch it, it's not very nice either, but it was also wonderful to be able to help him with that just by sticking to RLD, watching it drain while I was doing it. And then over the 2-week period, the reflexes got easier. He was more able to recline. I mean, his recovery has been off the scale. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So what he's doing is putting some information together, like a little case study, to share in the jaw surgery forums. And that, you know, research is proving what we do is a slow and expensive business. And there's no money for research into reflexology. They're just, you know, nobody has, you know, pots of money for that. So the little bit that we've done is amazing, and the money we've had for that has been fantastic. But patient voice and the impact of what this does for our clients, when they then go back to their medical teams, that's worth as much as published research. If more people keep doing it. In the same way, people who are doing a lot of RLD, I can think of somebody near Manchester. She's doing so much of it. She's making such a big difference to the clients, who would then go for their appointments at the lymphedema clinic. The lymphedema clinic have seen so many amazing results. They're actually referring people to her now. And they'd rung her up to say, well, I hope we're not sending too many people your way. You know, we don't want to overwhelm you. Because that's the patient voice there. Their patients are going into the clinics and saying, look, I've had this has happened. And it's very difficult for people to, I mean, it's a shame we can't be part of the whole NHS thing, because there is a shortage of MLD therapists. And, you know, it would leave the MLD therapists to deal with the really complex cases if reflexology was used to help with the milder cases and the more manageable cases. Similarly, I once had a referral from the local lymphedema clinic, because obviously they're seeing people that I see. So they're aware of the work, but it wasn't a direct referral. It was another nurse who was a friend of hers who worked in a different department, who'd had breast cancer and had lymphedema. And the lymphedema therapist said, oh, there's somebody in Rochester, you know, go up and see her and see if, you know, that can help. So that was a kind of indirect referral because she was her friend. Because professionally, she at the time wasn't allowed to be referring patients out to something that, you know, isn't NHS approved. But I do know that the NICE guidelines for complementary therapies in cancer care are currently being, they're under review, as Peter McCarrath is one of the reviewers of this. And I've been asked to submit some comments about it. So, you know, it's all good and it's all going in the right direction. But all the reflexologists out there who are using the techniques and making inroads, that is of just as much value to all of us as a profession as the small piece of research and the data collection and all of that. So, you know, it's good for the clients, it's good for us, and maybe we can get some momentum and start doing some work with people who are having jaw surgery. You know, because in these forums, people are looking for things that have helped, And even now, I mean, he no, it's about 2 months ago, maybe, had the last brace removed because he'd had braces before. It's quite a long old process. But when he went to have that removed, the orthodontist said the actual healing from all the surgery inside his mouth, she just couldn't see it. It had healed so quickly. So that goes back to that sort of cosmetic surgery, the idea of, you know, people who are having MLD and then, you know, to help people to heal, to help with recovery after surgery. So I hope that is useful. Thank you, Bev. Yeah, just challenge people to, well, you know, if you don't find somebody to do MLD, please come and try. Yeah, so testimonials are good, documenting what we're doing. I know I'm always going on about this, but that's how we build up our own evidence to call upon. So, you know, you get a few little cases similar, and then you can go and put, you know, look at that together and what's the similarity here, what's going on here. So I hope that helps everybody anyway. Okay, so Mandy, hi Mandy.
Hi.
Hi.
I'll lower my hand.
That's okay.
The case study that I was doing that I haven't finished writing up for you, but my case study is done. I wanted to share a couple of things that she said to me. So one, her friend noticed that she finally had ankles. and she hadn't had ankles in many, many years because she'd had a car accident, and she could never figure out to get the swelling down in her ankles and legs.
Yeah.
So that was one positive thing that came from it. And then she went to see her chiropractor. And she was telling the chiropractor about the RLD. His comment to it was, well, if your legs are up, they are going to go down in swelling.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's the sort of thing that the surgery near me would say, you know. Yeah. You know what? That's just okay. But if you were seeing maybe 6 of his patients, say, came to you and all had a similar thing,
Exactly.
then, you know, you start to get this. And what did she say to that?
She says, well, maybe, but she says, over the years, I've had my legs up and never had to this point. And this was after her 3rd treatment. I did 6 on her.
Yeah.
And I've talked to her since, and she says that the swelling's come back.
Okay.
But it's just finding the time for her.
So how many years has she had that? Had she had that swelling before she came to you?
5.
5 years. Okay, so 5 years of a problem with swelling. She gets 3 sessions of RLD and she gets her ankles back.
Yep.
You know? I mean, I hear this all the time. I hear these things all the time, and it is actually what keeps me going. It's what keeps the drive and excitement, and yeah, it just keeps me going, stuff like that. Particularly when something good happens to someone for whom they've been told, no, you just have to learn to live with that. You know, I've seen women who've had lymphedema in their arm for maybe 30 years. And then a few sessions of RLD and it starts to go. And you probably had this with her ankle as well, although I'm not sure you'd have noticed it in the same way. You know how they lose the most during the first treatment? Did you get that with the legs as well or not? Do you remember?
She's the one that I was talking about, that when I did her treatment, she seemed to go down until I got to the thigh.
Okay.
Like just above the knee.
Yeah.
And that always seemed to go up.
Yeah.
But then when she came back the following week, it was all down.
Yeah. Okay, so that is where it's increased higher up the leg, that's the fluid moving.
Mm-hmm.
That's the fluctuation and the moving. So instead of doubting you're measuring or that you may be doing something wrong, you know, I don't like the idea of right and wrong with reflexology, only right and left. So just to kind of be confident and do it. And she's feeling stuff moving, her ankle's going down, that fluid has to go somewhere and it has to travel up the body. And it's clearly doing that with you seeing it increase. I would see that as a positive result.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well done. Well done. Well, I hope she comes back soon. And see, that's the other thing that helps always with this swelling, whatever the cause is, as the swelling goes down, people's self-confidence starts to improve. And, you know, that is the positive ripple effect of this work, irrespective of all the people it'll help who don't have swelling, you know, the autoimmune inflammatory stuff. So I lost my thread there. Oh yes, when people she's close to, her friends start to say, oh look, I can see your ankles. So the client is straight away, oh yeah, I'm not imagining this, that it feels better. You know, it really does make a difference. So thank you for sharing. Thank you. Just got sorry, just thank you. How have others incorporated? Okay, Julia, I think is that might be a typo where it says 4. how have others incorporated, I'm guessing it's RLD with reflexology or vice versa. Wherever I try the treatment ends up taking too long. I mean, that's just down to experience, I think. Yeah, I personally always start my treatments with a quick whip around the lymphatic system, because with so many years experience now, I can pick up a lot from that. And then coupled with consultation, then I really decide how I'm going to, you know, adapt my treatment depending on what the aim and the outcome, you know, required aim is. Yeah, I thought autocorrect. I think autocorrect ought to be called auto incorrect because it does that more often than it corrects. So yeah, I would just say, you know, do it in your own way, basically. So if you're doing a general reflexology treatment for somebody who's just, it's got nothing wrong with them, they're just having a general treatment for well-being, I'm guessing you'd work all the systems, just work the lymphatic system in the way that you learn with RLD. And that's what I would say to that. So I hope that helps. Does anybody else have any question? Or is everybody okay with it being recorded, shared? Yeah, is everybody okay with that? Does anybody have anything else that you'd like to say or ask or mention before we finish? Go on now. Remember, there's no such thing as a silly question, only one not asked.
I'm always a bit unsure when they say, how often should I come? You know, I'm just, you know, I say regularly, but I don't want to push them to come sort of too often. But what would be the best gap between each treatments, would you say?
Okay, so again, that depends entirely on the client. And you know, whether they can spare the time. You also don't want to put them on a financial burden.
Yeah.
I don't, these days, I only see anybody once a month.
Yeah, I'd say once a month, and then, you know, and then if they feel they need to come back sooner, then come back. But I just say to do it regularly and once a month would be good. So I just wanted to check I was saying the right thing, really.
Well, like you, I never like to put people under pressure to, oh, you must come every week. You know, I've never, ever done that in practice. But there have been times when I've seen people weekly. But availability, appointment availability would be what stops me doing that now. But if somebody did want a weekly treatment, excuse me, I would probably just refer them to somebody else locally. Excuse me. Excuse me. Sorry.
Oh, thank you.
That's okay. You're welcome. Okay. Well, I'm going to wish you all a wonderful World Reflexology Week, and thank you very much for joining me. And all the best in your reflexology careers, because it's just the best thing. So thank you, everyone. Bye for now.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.